You are told that you live in a democracy. You are told that the free market is a competition where the best product wins. You are told that if you vote with your wallet, you have power. This is the single greatest illusion ever cast over the human race. The competition you see on the grocery store shelf is a lie. The political battles you see on the news are theater. The choices you think you have do not exist. You feel it, don't you? A gnawing sense that something is fundamentally broken. You work harder every year, yet you fall further behind. You follow the rules, you pay your taxes, you save your money, but the goalposts keep moving. You are running on a treadmill that is being sped up by an invisible hand. They tell you this is just the economy. They tell you it is market forces. It is not. It is a design. It is a cage built so skillfully that you cannot see the bars. You can only feel the cold steel against your back when you try to move freely. In our last investigation, we exposed the 4 architects who designed the global debt trap. We looked at the blueprints of the prison. But architects are just employees. They design the building, they pour the concrete, and then they die. The question you should be asking, the question that keeps the elites awake at night, is simple. Who owns the keys to the prison today? Who is sitting in the office collecting the rent on your life? It is not the President of the United States. It is not the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. These are temporary managers. They are disposable employees on 4-year contracts, placed there to absorb your anger so the real owners never have to face it. The real owners are permanent. They operate above the law because they own the law. They do not appear on the Forbes list of the richest people in the world because their wealth is not public. It is not liquid. Their wealth is the system itself. We are going to track the bloodline of money to the very top of the pyramid. We are going to look at 3 specific families who have effectively privatized the world. These 3 dynasties control the flow of capital, the flow of energy, and the flow of information. Once you understand who they are, you will realize that the chaos you see in the world right now is not accidental. The inflation, the wars, the social division. It is management. It is a controlled demolition of your independence. If you are ready to see the faces behind the curtain, keep watching. The 3rd family on this list has successfully erased themselves from history books, yet they likely own the mortgage on your house. Let's begin with the bloodline that conquered the concept of money itself. The Rothschilds. You have heard the name. You have heard the rumors. But the reality is far more clinical and far more dangerous than the internet conspiracy theories. To understand their grip on your life today, you have to understand that they didn't just accumulate gold. They accumulated nations. While other bankers in the 19th century were lending money to merchants to buy ships or build factories, the Rothschild dynasty realized something else. They realized that the only borrower who really mattered was the government. Why? Because a merchant can go bankrupt. A merchant can die. But a nation has the power of taxation. A nation can pledge the labor of its citizens for 100 years as collateral. They realized that the most profitable product in existence is not oil, it is not gold. It is the debt of a sovereign nation. They pioneered the concept of the independent central bank. This is the mechanism of your enslavement. In almost every major nation, the institution that controls the currency is not a government agency. It is a private entity granted a monopoly by the state. The Rothschild banking network established the model where the state does not create its own money. The state borrows it. Think about what that means for you right now. Every dollar in your pocket, every euro in your bank account, came into existence as a debt. It was borrowed into existence. And that debt carries interest. Who receives that interest? It flows upward. It flows from your tax dollars, to the government treasury, to the central bank, and finally to the international banking cartel that sits above it all. You call it inflation. But that is a technical term designed to bore you into submission. Let's call it what it is. Theft. It is the systematic siphoning of your labor hours into their vaults. Every time they print money to bail out their friends, the cash in your pocket loses value. It is a tax that is never voted on, never discussed, and never ends. The Rothschild model is the vacuum that sucks the value out of your work and deposits it into their asset prices. The Rothschild genius was to make this flow invisible. They understood that if you control the currency, you do not need to sit on a throne. You do not need to wear a crown. You can control the king by controlling his line of credit. If a government wants to go to war, they need funding. If they want to build infrastructure, they need funding. This family became the gatekeepers of history. They established a system where war is profitable and peace is expensive. During the Napoleonic Wars, during the World Wars, they funded both sides. This isn't just historical trivia. This is the business model that runs the world today. When you see a conflict erupting in the Middle East or Eastern Europe, do not look at the politics. Look at the financing. Who is issuing the bonds to fund the missiles? Who is underwriting the reconstruction contracts? The family's power today is not in a single bank called Rothschild. That is a distraction. Their power is in the Bank for International Settlements in Switzerland, the central bank of central banks. It is an institution that has immunity from all national laws, pays no taxes, and answers to no government. It sets the rules for the entire global banking system. This is the cockpit, and the pilot doesn't answer to you. But money is just a medium of exchange. To truly control a population, you need to control the physical reality they live in. You need to control the energy that powers their lives and the ideas that power their minds. This brings us to the second dynasty, the Rockefellers. If the Rothschilds are the masters of financial capital, the Rockefellers are the masters of the physical world and the human mind. Most people know John D. Rockefeller as the oil tycoon, the first billionaire. But his true legacy wasn't oil. It was the complete restructuring of society to serve corporate interests. In the early 20th century, the Rockefellers didn't just monopolize oil. They realized that to maintain power, they had to monopolize the very definition of truth. They used their massive fortune to seize control of two critical sectors, medicine and education. Let's look at medicine first. Before the Rockefeller involvement, natural medicine, homeopathy, and holistic cures were standard. They were cheap, they were effective, and they could not be patented. This was a problem for a man who owned the world's supply of petroleum. Rockefeller scientists discovered that they could create synthetic drugs from oil byproducts. These drugs could be patented. They could be sold for massive profits. But first, they had to destroy the competition. The Rockefellers funded the Flexner Report of 1910, which declared that any medical school not teaching the new drug-based curriculum was quackery. They successfully lobbied Congress. They shut down the competition. They created the modern pharmaceutical industry, a system designed to treat symptoms with perpetual subscriptions to patented chemicals rather than curing the root cause. Look at the health of the world today. Are we curing diseases, or are we managing profitable chronic conditions? That is the Rockefeller legacy. But their darker achievement was the education system. The General Education Board was founded by John D. Rockefeller in 1902. They poured millions into shaping the school curriculum, and they were very honest about their intentions in their own internal documents. They stated clearly that they did not want a nation of thinkers. They did not want a nation of philosophers or men of science. They wanted a nation of workers. Think about the sheer arrogance of this. They didn't just want your money, they wanted your children's minds. By standardizing the curriculum, they ensured that for generations, the smartest people in society would aspire to be middle managers, not disruptors. They clipped the wings of human potential to ensure the factory line never stopped moving. They replaced curiosity with obedience. The modern school system, the one you went through, the one your children are in, was not designed to unlock human potential. It was designed to create compliant employees for the industrial machine. It was designed to teach you to sit still for 8 hours, to memorize and repeat orders, to fear authority. They removed the study of logic. They removed financial literacy. Why? Because a population that understands money and knows how to think critically is dangerous. A population that is dependent on a job and follows instructions is manageable. If you have ever felt that school was trying to break your spirit rather than build it, you were right. That was the design objective. So we have the Rothschilds controlling the money. We have the Rockefellers controlling the energy, medicine, and education. But there is a missing piece. You need an intermediary. You need a force that connects the old European money with the new American industry. You need the enforcers. This is the third family, the Morgans. J.P. Morgan was not the richest man of his time, but he was the most powerful. He was the ultimate broker. He was the agent of the European elite in America. The Morgan dynasty perfected a technique called interlocking directorates. This is the secret to how a small group of men can control an entire economy without owning 100% of it. Morgan didn't just buy companies. He placed his men on the boards of directors of every major competitor in an industry. He did this with railroads. He did this with steel. He did this with electricity. On the surface, it looked like there were 10 different competing railroad companies. In reality, J.P. Morgan controlled the board of directors for all of them. He eliminated competition. He termed it Morganization. It was the consolidation of power into fewer and fewer hands. This family was responsible for the creation of U.S. Steel, General Electric, and AT&T. They built the infrastructure of the American empire, but they also controlled the flow of information. In 1917, it was reported in the Congressional Record that the Morgan interests had purchased the editorial policy of the 25 most influential newspapers in America. They didn't buy the printing presses, they bought the editors. They realized a century ago that if you control the news, you control the reality. They could turn public opinion in favor of war or against a politician simply by changing the headlines. The Morgan legacy is the corporate structure itself. The idea that a corporation is a person with legal rights. The idea that the banks are too big to fail. When the financial crisis of 2008 hit, who was in the room deciding which banks lived and which banks died? It was the modern heirs of the Morgan Empire. J.P. Morgan Chase is now the largest bank in the United States. They are the vault. They are the clearinghouse. They are the ones who profit from the volatility that destroys your retirement account. Chaos is not a crisis for them. Chaos is a ladder. You might be thinking, this is all ancient history. These families are deluded. They don't matter anymore. That is exactly what they want you to think. They have pulled off the greatest magic trick in financial history. They have disappeared behind a new mask. They no longer operate under their family crests. They don't put their names on the buildings. They have evolved. Today, these three dynasties have merged their interests into a new vehicle. A vehicle that sounds boring. A vehicle that sounds technical. The institutional investor. You know them as BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. These are the monsters that have eaten the world. If you look at the shareholders of almost any major company in the S&P 500, who are the top owners? BlackRock and Vanguard. Coca-Cola, BlackRock and Vanguard. Pepsi, BlackRock and Vanguard. Apple, Microsoft, Exxon, Pfizer, CNN, Fox News. The answer is always the same. But here is the secret. Who owns BlackRock? Who owns Vanguard? Vanguard is a private structure. Its ownership is obscured. It is the perfect hiding place for the old money. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Morgans, the DuPonts, the Bushes. They didn't lose their money. They pooled it. They moved it from family trusts into these massive passive investment vehicles. These firms manage over $20 trillion in assets. But more importantly, they control the voting rights. They force corporations to adopt policies that have nothing to do with profit and everything to do with control. This is where the ESG scores come from. This is why every corporation suddenly speaks with the same political voice. They are being coordinated from the top down. And it is not just humans making these decisions anymore. BlackRock uses a supercomputer known as Aladdin. It is an artificial intelligence that monitors every trade, every risk, every asset in the global market. It processes more data in a second than you could in 1,000 lifetimes. The market isn't free because the market is rigged by an algorithm that sees the future because it creates the future. When you try to day trade against this machine, you are bringing a knife to a nuclear war. They are using your money, your 401k, your pension fund, to buy up the world and rent it back to you. BlackRock is currently buying entire neighborhoods of single-family homes. They are paying 20 to 30% above market value. Why? Because they want to turn a nation of homeowners into a nation of renters. If you own your home, you have a level of independence. If you rent, you are dependent. If you rent, you can be evicted. This is the final stage of the plan. It is the transition from capitalism to techno-feudalism. In feudalism, the lords owned the land, and the serfs worked it for the privilege of existing. In techno-feudalism, the elites own the platforms, the payment systems, the housing, and the medical patents. You simply pay a subscription to live. You will pay a subscription for your heated seats in your car. You will pay a subscription for your software. You will pay a subscription for the roof over your head. They are building a world where you will own nothing. And they claim you will be happy. But happiness is not their goal. Compliance is their goal. The convergence of these three families into the modern shadow banking system has created a beast that no government can tame. In fact, the governments work for them. The revolving door between the White House, the Treasury, and BlackRock is spinning so fast it is a blur. Treasury secretaries become CEOs. CEOs become regulators. It is one big club, and you are not in it. The system they have built is based on a fundamental lie, that debt is money, that compliance is safety, and that consumption is happiness. They have engineered a society that is perpetually exhausted, perpetually in debt, and perpetually distracted. They want you focusing on the puppet on the left or the puppet on the right, so you never look up at the puppeteer. They want you fighting your neighbor over crumbs, so you never look at the bakery owner who is stealing the bread. This is not about left versus right. This is not about Democrat versus Republican. This is about the top versus the bottom. It is about a parasitic class of financial elites who produce nothing, yet own everything, versus the billions of people who wake up every day, go to work, build, create, and care for their families. The first step to breaking out of the prison is realizing that you are in one. The second step is identifying the wardens. We have done that today. The Rothschild banking model, the Rockefeller social engineering, and the Morgan corporate consolidation. They have merged into a digital control grid that is closing in around us. But every system has a weakness. And the weakness of this system is that it relies on your participation. It relies on your ignorance. It relies on you taking on debt to buy things you don't need. It relies on you sending your children to their indoctrination centers without question. It relies on you keeping your money in their banks, earning 0% interest while they lend it out at 10%. They are betting on your apathy. They are betting that you are too tired from working 2 jobs to care about history. They are betting that you will scroll past this video and go back to watching cat videos or celebrity gossip. Prove them wrong. Your attention is the only currency they cannot print. When you wake up, they lose. The game is rigged, but that doesn't mean you have to play it by their rules. You can choose to opt out of their debt. You can choose to educate your own mind. You can choose to build real assets, not paper promises. The dynasties we discussed today have had a 200-year head start. They have the gold. They have the guns. They have the courts. But they are few, and we are many. Their power exists only because we believe in their paper. When that belief shatters, their power evaporates like mist in the morning sun. The architects are dead. The owners are hidden. But the truth is out. Now that you know the lineage of the people controlling your wallet, the question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep paying rent to the landlords of the earth? Or are you going to start building your own kingdom? If you see the strings, if you see the cage, comment, "I see it" below. Let them know we are watching. Let them know that we know. And if you want to understand the specific tool they are using to trigger the next great collapse, the tool that will wipe out the middle class in a single weekend, you need to watch this video next. It's the final piece of the puzzle. Do not sleep on this.